Fine. So today we are back after, I guess, a span of 1 week. So last Saturday the lectures were suspended, so we missed one lecture. But fine. Before that, we had started seeing the topic of our queue. Okay. So I'll revise that topic again because it is quite a gap, and also you had two examinations in between. So it is quite understandable that I am not supposed to ask you. Okay. But even if you remember the concepts, then it is well and good on your part. Otherwise, I'm just quickly going through the PPT slides, which we have seen last Friday, and then we'll continue with Q. Okay. Most probably, we are going to finish your topic for Q. So, in your linear data structure, we are going to complete queues today. Okay, and then I'm not waiting for tomorrow. I'll be starting with your linked list also, at least the introduction part. Okay, so that is what we are going to see today. Fine. Let me just present my screen. Once you are able to see the screen, please do tell me yes or no. Okay. See, we have already seen two kinds of queues, that is circular queue and DQ. Okay, so that is what we are going to revise quickly. Operations were covered, so I'm not going back on operations. Just what you have to remember is queues are represented using arrays for now, as we have not touched linked list yet. Queues are represented by linked list also, but as we have not touched the linked list, so for now arrays are used for representation of your queue. Okay, your queue are having two kinds of variables. One is front, another is rear. Okay, in again I'm mentioning this, in various other resources, either books or online resources, many other times front and rear are also referred as front and back, or they are referred as head and tail. They are also referred as, head and rear. Okay, so there are combinations of names, but all of them are same. Okay, they are just your naming conventions. What we are using here is front and rear. Now in your queues there are two kinds of operations. Okay, one is your NQ and one is your DQ. Okay, NQ operation is for insertion. We are doing revision. Okay, we are doing revision for the past week's Friday lectures first. So in your queues are having two operations. One is your NQ operation, another is your DQ operation. Okay, your NQ operation is responsible for insertion of an element from one end of your queue. Your DQ operation is responsible for deletion of your element from another end. Okay, so that is what your NQ and DQ is. Now we have also gone through the practical of Q. Okay, so you must remember that when you are dealing with NQ and the element is the very first element in your array, okay, then you have to increment both your front and rear. Okay, but if you are going for NQ and the element is not your first element in your array, okay, then you just have to touch rear. You just have to increment your rear. You don't have to do anything with your front. Okay, so when you are going for NQ, you are going to increment your rear. When you are going for DQ, you are going to increment your front. Okay, that is what things to get remembered while operating on queues. Okay, there was one example, graphical example. It is added in your PPT. You can see it again. See here also front and back. Okay, in this example also there is front and back, but it is nothing but your front and rear. Okay. We had seen two algorithms for insertion and deletion, okay, which we have implemented in our practical program also. So I'm not going through them again. Drawbacks of linear queues we had discussed. What is the drawback? Wastage of space. Okay, because even though the array is consuming your memory chunk, or you can say memory location, and that location is empty, still you are not able to enter the elements. Okay, because why? R has reached max minus 1, so it is going to prompt you overflow. Okay, so that's why major drawback of your linear queue is wastage of space. And that's why some variants of queues were introduced. Okay, out of which one was circular queue, another is D queue, and third is your priority queue. Okay, priority queue we are going to see today. Circular D queue we have seen in our past week's lecture. Okay, so quickly revision for your circular queues. You have your front and rear, okay, same in your circular queues also. The only difference is you can reset your rear back to index 0 using the modulo function, okay, only if your front has moved forward. If your front is at 0th position, you cannot reset your R back again to the 0 index, okay. So if front has not moved and R has reached the end of your array, okay, then you are going to say that queue is overflowing. Okay, that is what the circular queue is. Again, the conditions for circular queue to be full and empty. When can you say your circular queue is full? When front is at 0, 0th index, and rear is at max minus 1. Okay, and when can you say it is empty? When front and rear both are equal to minus 1. Okay, so that is your circular queue, two conditions. We had seen this example where we are adding enqueuing the elements and dequeuing the elements in your circular queue. Okay, so I am going past them. Already discussed this. We have also discussed that your circular queue is pretended to be array in circle. Okay, actually it is not circle. Actually, the way it is behaving from 0 to 15, from 15 back to 0, again 0 to 15, again from 15 back to 0. So that is a kind of a circular movement. Okay, so it is not, it is pretended to be in circular manner, but actually in your memory it is like this only. Fine. The working of your circular queue we have seen, as I have mentioned, when you get across your overflow condition, okay, and front has moved forward, then you can reset your rear. If you can focus here, you can reset your rear using the modulo function. And what is that? Rear plus 1 modulo max size. So it is going to go on your start again at 0. Okay, so that is your start of the queue. So that is how it is going to work. Okay, for your rear. Again, this was an example which we have seen initially front and rear at minus 1. We are going on enqueuing, doing the enqueue operation till it is full. Okay. Then we did some dequeue operations. After the the queue is array is full, your front is at 0 and your rear is at 4, okay, which is max size minus 1. Now we are going for dequeue operations because we want to add still more elements, but as front has not moved forward, we cannot do any more enqueue. So first we have to do some dequeues. Okay, so we did the dequeue operation, two dequeue operations. Okay, so front moved from 0 to 2. Now we are going for enqueue again. So we can reset our rear, this pink arrow. You can reset back to 0 and you can do your enqueue operation. And as front has moved 2 spaces forward, so we can add 2 elements here. So again, now the queue is full, correct? We had seen and discussed the enqueue operation for your circular queue and dequeue operation for circular queue. Okay, so not discussing them again. I hope it is clear. Circular queue till here. Clear or any doubt? Then I can move to DQ. Circular queues, any doubt? This is a yes or no question type answer. Binary answer yes or no, 0 or 1. So, any doubt? Again, asking, any doubt in circular queues? Okay. So, the second example of, or you can say second variant of your queue we saw was DQ. Okay. Now, DQ is using the concept of your queue and stack both. Okay, so this is what we have seen in the diagram. It is a double-ended queue. So even in the examination, if DQ is not written, but it is written double-ended queue, then don't think that what is double-ended queue. We have not studied it. Yes, you have studied it. It is your DQ. Okay, so that is your double-ended queue. Fine. Now, why it is called double-ended queue? Because you can insert and delete from any end you want. Okay. Till now, in our queues, what we were doing? Insertion from one end, deletion from another end. Okay. Here in DQ, you can do both the things from any end. Okay. And that's why it is using the concept of your stack also and the concept of your queue also, but with some limited function. Okay, not entire functions of stacks and queues are used, but with the combination, you can say, or say with the limitation, some of the limited function it is using, and that's why it is called double-ended queues. Okay. See, you need to keep this diagram in mind. From front also you can push pop, from rear also you can push and pop. Okay, depending on how you want to behave, how you want your DQ to behave. Okay. We had seen this example of adding from left hand side and adding from right hand side, and again DQing from left and DQing from right. Fine. So not going through those again. We had seen types of DQ. Okay, input restricted and output restricted. Input restricted DQs are what? Deletion can be done from both the ends, insertion from just one end. Okay, so you can remember it like this: input restricted. Okay, so that means insertion from one end only. What is remaining? Deletion. So deletion from both the ends. Output restricted. That means deletion from one end only. What is remaining? Insertion. So insertion from both the ends. Okay. So that is how you can remember this: input restricted and output restricted. Applications of this DQ is in scheduling algorithm. Okay, the name of that scheduling algorithm is A-Steal job and your palindrome checker. Okay. Now today we are going to see a priority queue. Okay. Now first of all, from the name itself, what do you understand by priority? First of all, tell me that. The word priority.
Giving preference.
Exactly, giving the preference. And what do you understand by queue now? Till now, what we have discussed?
FIFO structure.
Correct. So if you can join these two terms, okay? So preference in your queue, or say preference in your queue elements. So you can make out from the name itself that there will be some kind of preferences given to the elements. Okay, and that is what your priority queue is. So discussing further your priority queues. What is your priority queue? As the book definition goes, it is your abstract kind of a data type, okay, just like your regular queues or data structure, but there is an additional priority given to each of your element. Okay, so each of the element is associated with some kind of priority. Okay, so you are going to maintain one more array for maintaining the priority along with the elements. Okay, so see, the structure is somewhat like this. A, B, C, D, E are your entered data elements. Okay, and with them there is priority P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. These are not your index values. Okay, so do not consider them as your indexes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, they are not your index values. They are your priority values. So A has priority 1, B has priority 2, C has priority 3, D and E has priority 4 and 5 respectively. Okay, and the array is full because front is at 0 index and rear is max minus 1 index. So that is at 4. Correct? Right? Wrong?
Right.
Okay, only 2 students I guess are attentive. I said that front is at 0th index and rear is at max minus 1, so that is 4. So that is what I'm asking. Was I right or wrong? Okay. See, sometimes I'll deliberately say wrong answers. Okay, so every time you don't have to say yes in my yes. Okay, be attentive. Sometimes I'll deliberately say the wrong answer. Fine. So see, because of this priority, okay, because the elements are given priority, it might be possible here with respect to our example that D may be deleted before the element is pointed by your front. Okay, that means if D is not at 0th index. Okay, what is according the concept of our queue, first in first out. Okay, so what we used to do, that whichever element was at 0th index, okay, we were deleting that one first. But if the priority of an element which is not at 0th index is higher, then it is possible that that element will get the deletion or say DQ function first. Okay, so that is what the use of priority is here. Now your conditions in your priority queue. Okay, so please note down these because now it is going to get, many concepts are going to come. Today we are also going to go with the linked list part also. So you have to, keep these conditions handy for you to revise anytime you want. The conditions are, if in your priority queue an element with high priority, okay, has to be served before the element with the low priority, okay, irrespective of their incoming order. So ideally, if it was linear queue, we used to place your elements in 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we were deleting those elements starting from your 0th index. But here things are changing. If the element has higher priority, then that element will be served first. So if let's say your 0th element is having priority 1, your first index number 1 element is having priority 2. Okay, then let's say again your third element is having priority 1 and fourth element is having priority 4. So element 4 will get the operation first. Okay, then element 2 will get the operation first, and as 1 and 3 both have same kind of priority, so they will be served in the order they have been incoming in your array. Okay, so that is what your second point is. If two elements are having same priority, okay, let's say the example which I gave, then according to that 1 and 3 were the two elements having priority 1. Okay, so whichever element came first, okay, they are going to get the operation, whether NQ or DQ. okay, or whether say it's just DQ, whatever operation you are doing, that operation is going to get first by the element which has come first in case of same priority. Okay, clear these 2 points? Any doubt here? Anybody? Okay. So how can you represent your priority queues in your arrays or in your memory? Okay. So array representation. As I said, again the array is going to get used here for your priority queues. Okay. But you are going to maintain a separate queue, okay, for each of your priority numbers. You don't have to do any practical implementation, but you need to know that how they are actually represented. And if in the end we are remaining with some extra labs, then we can practice these also. Okay, your implementation of your priority queues also. So as you are going to maintain the data part and the priority part, so you are going to use your two-dimensional arrays. Okay, in your priority queues, we are going to use two-dimensional arrays. One for the data part and another is for your priority part. Okay. Now, how are you going to represent, or you can say, as we are dealing with two-dimensional arrays, so in tabular manner, how we are going to, represent them? Then, row is going to provide you the priority, whereas your column is going to specify the element which you want to store. Okay, so for example, I have this array. Okay, values are A, B, D, E, and F. Priority given are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3. So see, I have two elements with same priority, that is 3, and the elements are D and F. Now, according to the statement previously given, we are maintaining the priorities column wise. Okay, so when the table is formed, then this 1, 2, and 3, this column 1, 2, and 3 are your priorities. Okay, this 1, 2, and this 1, 2, 3, 4 are your elements. Okay, element number of elements. Okay, so what you can say about how you can understand this table as element having priority 1 element, that is A. Element having priority 2. So again one element B. Element having priority 3. So first element is D because order of D, okay, is first, is before F. So D here, F is the second element having same priority 3. Okay, and then priority number 4 given by E. Okay, so again I'm saying priority 1 A, priority 2 B, priority 3, which is the first element. So according to this table, it is D. D was the first one to enter the queue, okay, with priority 3. So first element D. Second element with same priority 3. So second element same priority as 3. So that is F, okay, and then it is E with the fourth priority value. So this is how the table is getting maintained. If you can see, this diagram shows you how you are going to input your given values and your priority values, and with the help of NQ operation, how priority queue is maintained. Okay, so in your input, suppose you are giving B of 3, A, comma 1, C, comma 4, D, comma 2. So what? In general form, you can say how you are giving the input in general form. It is X, P of X. Okay, X, P of X. So each element, each of your input is having this form, X, P of X, where X is your element, P of X is your priority. Okay, and irrespective of how you are giving the input, your priority queue is going to arrange them with the help of their P of X, and A of 1, D of 2, B of 3, and C of 4 are going to get inserted in your priority queue. Okay, where front is pointing at A of 1 and rear is pointing at C of 4. So that is how your NQ operation is doing. The arrangement in your priority queue. Your input is given like this randomly. Okay, but in your priority queue, it is maintained in the order of their priorities. Okay. Another example. This example was regarding just one character. Okay, B, A, C, D. Another example, if we see, then we are giving names. Okay, the element are your names and priority is given. So again, the form of input is X, P of X. So X is your element, that is your names, Ankit, Ruby, Akshay, Akash, Sumit. Okay, and priorities are given to them. So when you are doing your NQ operation, elements are going to be pushed according to their priorities. Okay, and in your priority queue, you are going to maintain it as priority 1 is given to Ruby. So Ruby's name is first. Then it is Ankit. Okay. Then priority number 3, Sumit. 4th is Akshay. 5th is Akash. Okay. So that is how it is going to maintain. Now if there are two priorities here. Let's say Akash 5, Sumit 3. Again, I'm writing here as let's say Vidhi 5. Okay, so again, Akash was the first one, okay, to be entered in the input. So after Akash, Vidhi is going to get the name here. All right. So after that, if we are saying that Riddhi is 6, okay, Bharti 7, then according to the priority, again these names are going to get enlisted here. Okay, so that is how your priority queue is working. Now coming to the insertion, that is your NQ in your priority queue. Okay, so what you are going to do is, first of all, you are going to maintain your two-dimensional arrays where one part is holding your elements, okay, and another part of your queue is holding your priority. Now here in the table, if you can see, we have two elements with same priority 3 and two elements with same priority 4. Okay, so let's see how insertion is going to happen. Again, we are going to make this table. Okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4 are the number of elements. This 1, 2, 3, 4 is your priority. Don't get confused. Okay, column means your priorities. This is the number of elements. Okay, having those priorities. Fine. So A is priority 1, B is priority number 2, D is priority number 3. So that is the first element to get the priority 3. Second element to get priority 3 is F. Okay, similarly E and G. Fine. So that is what your insertion is. Like first one to get entered is A, then B, then D. Then E is not going to go because why? It is fourth priority right now. Next, directly it is F, then it is E and G. Okay. Now again, for deletion operation, let's see for the deletion, that is a DQ in your priority queue. Same example. Okay. No change. Same example, same table format. Now how they are going to get DQ? Okay. Again, the removal is always going to be based on your priority. Okay, so priority of A is higher than your E and G. Okay, first priority. Fine. So first A will get removed, then D will get removed, then we have D and F. Now, according to the statement given before, if two elements are having same priority, then operation will be based on how they have entered, which one has entered first in your queue. So D was the first one to enter. So D got the priority before F. So then D, F, similar concept applied on E and G. So E and G. So that is what your, you can say the removal sequence will be A, B, D, F, E and G. Clear this part? Any doubt here? Anybody? See, you have to understand this theoretical concepts, okay? Because it will be helpful not only in your practicals but also in your MCQs also. Fine. Okay, chalo. It's good that it is no doubt here. But again, I am saying, even if you have doubt anywhere, please do not hesitate. Okay, do not think what others are going to think or others' time will get wasted and all. Don't think that at all. Fine. Do not hesitate. Stop me there and then, and I'll explain you again gladly. Now coming to the applications of your queue, okay? Here applications of queue means in general each and every queue, irrespective of what kind it is. Applications of queue. CPU. If you have observed, when you are giving print command, okay, to more than 2 or 3 documents, then onto your right hand side corner, okay, bottom corner, you'll get one prompt that so and so documents or number of documents in queue. Okay, so that is what your printer application is doing. It is pushing, or you can say it is doing an NQ operation for each of the documents given the printed command, and one by one, okay, according to the mode of their incoming in your print array, it is going to print. Similarly, for your disk scheduling and CPU, the processes which are done by your disk scheduling algorithms and your CPUs. Okay, so your queues are widely resourced, are widely used in this wait list for single shared resources. Okay, then in your buffers, MP3 players, or you can say portable CD players, if you can remember, in many of our apps, music apps, they are giving an option to add next, okay, or it can say add in the queue. Okay, so those are your buffers. Those buffers are implemented with the help of your queues. Okay, so that is one of the another application of queue. Third is your holding area in your computer system. Again, most widely used as buffer. The buffer in your computer systems. Okay, what is that buffer area? That buffer area is going to store the processes which are yet to get processed. Okay, so these buffers are implemented with the help of queue. Okay, any doubt in the application of queue? Any questions in the applications of queue? Yes or no? Any questions, any doubts here? Okay, so we are going to revise your queue in a very short quiz format. Okay, because of course I'm not going to make, I don't want to make this 2 hours of session very monotonous session. So just to keep up a little bit of hype, I have kept this queue quiz. Okay, even if you get answers wrong, it is okay. This is just a revision of your queue topic. All right, fine. Shall we start? Okay, fine. Your first question is, you are following a circular queue. Okay, maximum size is 6 elements with the following data. Okay, So that means they have done some NQs, they have done some DQs. It is your circular queue. Maximum element which it can hold is 6. Okay. So understand what is your max size here. Front is pointing at 2 and rear is pointing at 4. And the you can say your queue you can imagine as like this, a space, then LMN, and then again two spaces. Okay, so what will happen after add O operation takes place? That means after you are doing NQ operation for element O, what is going to happen? Your options are these. A is front equal to 2, rear equal to 5. Okay, and Q is somewhat like this. Front is equal to 3, rear equal to 5, and Q is somewhat like this. Front again at 3, rear at 4, and structure of Q as shown in the figure. And D, front is at 2 and rear is at 4, and Q is LMNO dash. Which one is the correct answer? Okay, most of you are saying A. Josh is in dilemma. All right, no problem. Raj also thinks it is A. Okay, the correct answer is A. That is right. Okay, why A? Because this is a circular queue. You are going to increment your rear, correct? Because we are doing add O, that is NQ operation, insertion operation. So we don't have to touch our front. We are going to increment our rear. So rear is equals to 5. Now, first of all, rear was pointing here at 4, that is N. So when we increment, it is going to point here at this space. Okay. So this in front space will remain as it is. Okay, so that is blank. Then LMN, rear pointing at index value 5. So here exactly, sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here at index value 4, fifth element is O, and then here blank space. Okay, so the correct answer is A. Fine. Your next question. If elements A, B, C, and D are placed in queue and are deleted one at a time, okay, in what order will they be removed? You have to tell me in what order they are going to get removed. Elements are A, B, C, D placed in a queue. Okay, anybody with answer D? Yes, correct. A and D. So, yeah, right. And both of them are correct. Okay. So your option A or your option D, okay, they both are correct because both are same A, B, C, D. Okay, because see, here they have just told us Q. They have not mentioned which kind of Q. Alright, so you have to take your general Q. So Q, first in, first out. Correct? So A, B, C, D are placed. So in that manner only they are going to get removed. Fine? Another question. If max size is the size of array used for the implementation of circular queue, how is rear manipulated while inserting the element in the queue? Your options are rear is equals to rear modulo 1 plus max size, rear modulo max size plus 1, rear plus 1 modulo max size, and rear plus 1 modulo max size. What is your answer? We are talking about circular queue. Okay, Shri says it is C. Tushar agrees with that. Vijay also. Understand the question correctly, okay? We are dealing with circular cues with size as max size, okay? And how rear is manipulated, that is what you have to give the answer. Only 3 people with answer C. What about rest of the others? Don't know the answer or confused? What is the state? Vidhi, Bharti, Ivanshi, Janvi, Netik, Pathik, Preet, Saf. What about you guys? The question is asking that if max size is the size of array, okay? This is in general a sentence, logical question. This is a logical question, all right? The size of array is what? Max size. Okay, so max size you can take it any value which you want. Fine. And implementation is done in your circular queue. So how is rear manipulated while inserting an element in queue? So how you can say that rear gets manipulated? Manipulated means how rear works in your implementation of circular queue. So your rear is going to use your modulo function. Why? Because this is circular queue, and once the front has moved forward and rear is at the end, and you have to do your NQ operation. So you have to reset your rear back to 0, and for that you are using what? Modulo function. And max size is your maximum size of an array. So if you can remember, option number C is your correct answer. Why? Because we have to reset your rear back to 0. So rear plus 1. Okay. So rear is at, let's say max size is 5. So rear is at 4. So 4 plus 1, 5. 5 modulo 5. So that is 0. Okay. So correct answer is your option number C. Rear plus 1 modulo max size. That is how your rear is getting manipulated in your circular queue. Okay, this is the logical question where you don't have any values, but you have to understand what the question is trying to tell you and what kind of answer you need to give based on the options given. Okay, so I hope it is clear to everybody now. Okay. So in your MCQs also you can get these kinds of logical questions. Okay, this is what you call a logical question where there are no numerical values given to you, but you have to understand the question, take some examples of your own, okay, understand in that manner and then give the answer. Fine. Next question, again the same kind. Okay, the array of size max size is used to implement a circular queue. Okay, front, rear and count are tracked. So that means you are keeping the position of front, you are keeping the tab of your position of rear, and you are also keeping the count. Count means the number of elements that are added till date. Now suppose front is at 0 and rear is at max size minus 1. So you need to, literally look or say logically think and draw one diagram in your mind that, okay, this is my array. My front is at 0 and rear is where? Max size minus 1. So that means at the end of my array. So that means those number of elements, my array is full. Rear is max size minus 1. So my array is completely full. So now you can answer how many elements are present in the cube. Okay, so based on this, you can give the answer 0, 1, max size minus 1 or max size. Correct, everybody. It is max size. Fine. So see, you really have to, if you have kept in mind how actually the queue is looking at. If you can remember in our lab session, I had showed you with the help of an Excel sheet, okay, how your queue is represented in memory. So you have to keep that diagram in mind. So when these such kind of an logical question are coming in across you, you can very easily imagine how in memory your array is stored, where is your front, where is your rear, and then you can give the answer accordingly. Okay. But for that, you have to remember that Excel diagram, or say the practical which we have done using that Excel demonstration. So we are at the end of your Q topic. Okay. The PPT of this has been already uploaded in your e-contents. You can find it in your e-content in your notes. Okay, this whole PPT is already uploaded. So you can just Okay, sorry for that interruption. Okay, so I was showing you this PDF where we have listed the units. Okay, the highlighted blue two lines, that is what we have finished, so that your Q topic is finished for now. PPT has already been uploaded on your e-content. You can download it. Also, there is one ebook which is uploaded for your reference. If you feel like that it is easier to read from that ebook, then that ebook is also uploaded. You can check it out once. Now we are going to start with your linked list. Okay, linked list is the last linear data structure. Okay, in your unit number 2, we are going to see what is your linked list, what are the operations in your linked list. Okay, what is your doubly linked list means the variants of your linked list. Okay, and their operations. There are various kinds of cases for insertion and deletion for each of your linked list. Okay, and at the end, your applications of linked list. Okay. All right. So from the name itself, can anybody tell me what do you understand by linked, first of all?
Connected in some form.
Correct. Absolutely right. Any another synonyms for linked? Any another synonyms you can think of?
Related.
Absolutely right. Related, correct. Holding one another, correct. Interconnection is another word for link. Joined, yes, correct. And list, what do you understand by list? Simple, English meaning, list. Linear connection of data, okay. You can say some items, okay. Some number of items is what your list is. So from the name itself, you can make out that these number of items are somehow interconnected or joined or holding each other. So in a way, you can visit these lists, okay, these number of lists in some form or the other. Okay. So let's see what is your linked list. Before that, we are going to see what is your need for linked list. Okay, why we need linked list? We have linear data structures now. We have arrays, we have stats, we have queues. Then why do I need one fourth, data structure? Why should I go for this fourth one? Okay, so the very first thing is the limitation of our array. Array is of fixed size. Okay, whereas your linked list, you can decrease and increase your size whenever you like. In arrays, you need to specify your size. Okay, so that makes it as fixed. Even if you are taking the size from the user, you are, restricting the size of an array to some given input by the user. Okay, so that is one of the need why we need linked list, because in arrays we have fixed size. Okay, but in your linked list, it is going to use your dynamic memory allocation concept, and that's why practical number 2 was introduced to you. Okay, because before implementing linked list, you should be very well aware with the dynamic memory allocation. Okay, why? Because we are going to use those concepts in linked list. Right? So the very first need was arrays are of fixed size, and we need some data structure where we do not have to worry about the size. Okay, so that was the first need. Second, elements are stored in contiguous memory locations which may not be always available. Okay, now see, look at the scenario here. I'll just give you one example. Let's say this whole part, okay, this whole part from column C to column Q, okay, this is your memory location. Okay, this whole orange part is your memory location. Fine. Now here, let's say I am building an array like this. Okay, array from E to J. Fine, I'm doing this. Now let's say that this is one blue I'm going to do. Here one more blue. Here one more blue. Here it is blue. This part I am saying as blue. Okay, so this, let's say this is our array. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, indexes, or you can say the memory addresses. Let's keep it as memory addresses. Okay, zooming it out for you. I mean in for you. Okay, clear, I suppose. Now let's say this memory location is 12, this memory location is 13, this particular memory location is 50, this memory location is 65, no, not 65, let's keep it as 85. Okay, and this memory location is at 65. Right? So this is what your memory is looking like. The blue portion is your free memory. The orange portion is your occupied memory. Now let's say I want to, implement an array of 6, of size 6. So it is easy. It can be easily allocated this space, this memory space. Okay. Now I'm doing the operations. Okay. Let's say I'm implementing a cube having size 6. Okay, so my cube got implemented. Why? Because these these blue spaces are free, and my cube got implemented. So I am doing it as, let's say, red. Okay, so my queue got implemented. Now I am in need of memory space. Okay, I want to increase the value of my the space of my queue. So even if my memory has empty slots, or you can say empty chunks, I won't be add the memory here. Why? Because it is array representation. An array memory is assigned in sequential form. So what your OS is going to return? No memory available. Now OS is right in a way because queue is implemented with the help of array. Okay, an array holds the concept of sequential memory allocation. Okay, so even though I have free slots of memory inside my memory block, I am not able to increase the size of my queue. This limitation is getting overcome by your linked list. Okay, so what it says, data elements are stored in contiguous memory location which may not be always available. Okay, so to overcome this, despite of having memory in my memory block, I am not able to increase the size of my queue. So to overcome this, we are going to implement your queues with the help of linked list. Okay, so we can increase and decrease the size dynamically. Third, insertion and deletion of elements can be problematic because shifting of elements from their positions. Okay, so in your arrays, generally what you are doing, if we are just talking about normal concept of arrays, we are shifting your elements. Okay, when we are increasing or decreasing, or in between we are inserting any of the element, we have to shift your elements either right hand side or left hand side. That is overcome by your linked list. Okay, so these are the three, you can say one of those three reasons why we need your linked list. Now let's go to the introduction part. What is your linked list? It is a flexible dynamic structure, okay, which has elements in form of a sequential list. Okay, these elements are called as nodes. Okay, now they are not your elements, now they are your nodes. Okay, and this node structure are having two kinds of variables. Okay, or you can say two types of data. One is the actual data part, or you can say the value of the node, that is your either character type or integer type or float type or double type. Okay, so the value of node or the data, okay, of that node, that is one part. Second part is the pointer. Okay, now what is the role of this pointer? This pointer is going to point towards the next node in the line. Okay, so that creates a linkage, and that's why the structure is called linked list. Okay, it is somewhat like this. See, the node, if you can see in this diagram, this is the node. Okay, the node is going to have one data part and a pointer which is pointing to the next part. If you can see logically in our Excel, I'm going to undo this. Okay, now if I say I'm merging this and this is my node. Okay, okay, this is my one node which I can say. You can say this as your node. And what does this node has? This node has one data part and it has one pointer part. Okay, data part holds your data value. Okay, let's say it is an integer kind of a data, so 56. Okay, and this pointer is going to store the memory address of your next node. Okay, so suppose there is one more node here, copying it. Okay, let's say the data part is 87. Okay, and these nodes, because we are going to use your dynamic memory allocations, these nodes are going to store some, or say are going to have some memory addresses. Let's say this node number 1 is at memory address 400. Okay, and this node number 2 is at memory address 415. Okay, so what this pointer is going to do, this pointer is going to store 415 as its value. Okay, and logically you can imagine as linkage between these two. Okay, so this is the link. This 415, which is held by this pointer of node 1. Okay, it is the memory address of this node 2. It is not pointing to this data. Okay, this is just an arrow, this is just a linkage. It is not pointing towards your data, but it is pointing towards this whole node. Okay, similarly this node 2 is going to hold the pointer part of this node 2 is going to hold the memory address of your node 3. Okay, so this pointer part is going to hold your value as 500. Okay, so you can see these are your nodes having linkage, and it is list of 3 elements. So that's why it is linked list. Linked lists. Okay. Now one more property of your linked list is that if the node is the last node in your linked list, okay, then the pointer of that node is going to have null value. Okay, it is going to have null value. Let's say we are representing it with x. Null value means it is either 0 or null. Right now in this logical representation, I am representing it with the help of X. Okay, I am getting it bold. Fine, so you can make out that if the pointer of your list last, this node is having pointer value as null, that means it is your last node in your linked list. Okay, everybody clear till here? Any doubt in node structure? Okay. So how can you now see, if you see here, we are talking about memory addresses, correct? We are talking about memory addresses given to these nodes. So we have to start somewhere, okay? If we want to traverse in our linked list or want to do any kind of operation in linked list, we must start from node 1. Now how am I going to identify where is my node 1? Okay, so that is done with the help of your head pointer. Again, head pointer, there is one pointer called head. Okay, that is your head pointer, which is going to store, or say which is going to point out to the node, very first node of your linked list. So head is going to store the value, or say the memory address of your first node. Alright. So you can say your head is going to point here at the first node. Okay. So with the help of this head pointer, this is pointer. Okay. So I am doing it start. So with the help of this head pointer, you are going to traverse in your linked list. Fine. This is a pointer. Pointer is going to store the memory address of your first node. So that is 400. Okay, and then you are going to traverse from, now first node is having the memory address of second node, so it is 415. So control will go to node number 415, data part, pointer part. Again, node 2 is having pointer 500, so it is going to go to node number 3, data part, pointer part. Pointer is null, so the control will come to know that I have reached the end of my linked list. Okay, so this is the general logical way to represent your linked list. Okay, there is a head pointer, there are nodes. Nodes are having two kinds of data. One is the data part, data variable, another is the pointer variable. Okay, and those are linked with each other. How? Node 1 pointer will be storing the memory address of node 2. Okay, it is, don't get confused with these arrows, that this arrow is starting from this pointer and it is pointing at this data part. That means the pointer is pointing to the data part. No, the pointer is pointing to this whole node. Okay, and this 87 is the part of that node. Okay, please be very clear with that. Fine, back to our PPT. So that is what this diagram tells you. See, there is a head pointer pointing towards the first node. Linkage is there with the help of next pointer of your node. Okay, and the last pointer is your null. Okay, so that is what we have seen in the Excel. What your linked list is going to do? It is going to allow you the efficient insertion and removal from any position in the sequence. Okay, you don't have to shift, you don't have to shift left or right. You can remove, you can add the elements in any given specified position, okay, inside your sequence. Also, you don't have to worry about memory, right? Because if you can see, here, they are associated in linear manner, okay, in linked manner. So that is linear. But the memory addresses are not always necessarily be in sequential form. This 400 afterwards it can assign this node to 401, okay, but it is not necessary always that after 401 it is going to be at memory address 402. Okay, so that is the advantage, that if you can remember that memory example I give you, that suppose I have this whole memory block. Okay, this is my, oh sorry, this is my memory block. Okay, and my linked list is here somewhere, right? And I have this block as empty. Okay, this block as empty. So I don't have to worry, unlike array, that okay, I don't have next block, this block is occupied, so I don't have next block, so I cannot implement my queue or stack. I can implement. Why? Because this is dynamic memory allocation. These two memory chunks are free. Okay, so the OS is going to assign this block to my you can say to my linked representation of Q, and how these are going to get connected with the help of this pointer. The pointer for this will be pointing to this memory address. Okay, so you can say it is linked with each other. As I said, the last node in your linked list is your terminator, that is your null pointer, which is going to signify that you have reached the end of your linked list. Okay, so this is how it is represented. In a way, in your examination, you can represent it like this also. Okay. Talking about your head pointer, again your head pointer has naming conventions as start. Okay, so head and start both are going to be one and same. If I say that start pointer, that means I'm talking about head pointer only. Okay, it is not another pointer, it is the same pointer. Okay, so the linked list is going to contain your pointer variable called start. What is the purpose of that? Or your head, what is the purpose of head? It is going to store the address of your first node in the list. Okay, so that is this part. All right. It is useful in traversing your entire list. Okay, so using start, which contains the address of your first node, you can traverse in the entire list. Okay, and using these technique, you are going to visit the individual nodes in your linked list. Okay, which is forming a chain of nodes. So you can represent it something like this. Start is pointing to the first node. First node has linkage with second, second has linkage with third, and so on, like till 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is your terminator, or you can say the last node. So the next pointer has value null. Okay. Now exactly how we are going to represent in memory. Okay, that is the big question. Though I've already demonstrated, but again, let's see it. In order to form your linked list, we all now know that your node part has two fields. One is data and one is the next. Next is your pointer. Okay, please remember this. Next is your pointer. Head or start is your pointers. Okay. So data is going to store the information part. Your next is going to store the address or the memory address of the next node. Alright. So let's say, suppose this is your memory representation. Okay. One is the data part, one is the next part. Alright. Now, start is going to store the memory address of your very first node. Okay. Node I am saying here. So what is the memory address of your first node? Number 1. Okay. So start is going to hold that. Fine. So first data stored at address location 1. Now from there you can see it is pointing to address location 4. These gray lines 2, 3, 5, 6, 9 are memory occupied by another processes. Okay, they are not free. They are your occupied memories. Okay, so now it is pointing at 4. Okay, so you are going to go to the 4th memory address. Okay, the control is going to go there. So next is H, first is H, then it is E. Now it is where it is pointing next us to, it is going to point us at 7. Okay, so the control is going to go at 7. Then an 8. Okay, from 7 it is going to go at 8. From 8 it is going to go at 10. So at 10, the next part is having value -1. So that is your null value. Okay, so that indicates the end of your linked list. Okay, and we have stored one spelling of hello, HELLO. Again, here if you can observe, 7 and 8 are having sequential memory allocation. Why? Because it was free. But here it is not, again I'm saying it is not necessary that your nodes are always stored in sequential memory form. Okay, wherever the memory is available, that will be allocated to your node. Fine. But how they are connected? With the help of this pointer. This pointer is going to create the linkage. Fine. So that is how it is represented in the memory. Now, the most important, one of the most important topic, arrays versus your linked list. Okay. So what are the differences? So let's not go to the difference part, but let's see what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses. Okay, what are the strength of arrays, what are the strength of linked list, what are the weaknesses of arrays, and what are the weaknesses of linked list. Okay, so see, first of all, looking at the strengths for your array, you can do random access with the help of index values. You just give the index value that I want to go to this particular index value. So you are going for random access, so fast searching time. Okay, less memory needed per element. Why? Because only, let's say if it is an integer type, so it can be either 2 or 4 byte per memory allocation, okay, or per memory index value. Alright, so less memory needed in comparison to your linked list. Better cache locality. Now, what is your cache locality? When you're dealing with arrays, there are some predefined, or you can say expected operations which are going to happen. Okay, for example, if you are going for insertion, you are going for insertion operation, so you did insertion operation at index 0, then it is expected that you are going to do another insertion operation at index value 1, of course, because we are dealing with arrays. Okay, so cache locality is the place where it is going to store these cache functions, okay, or cache operations. And because of the cache locality, you are going to increase your execution time because that function is there in your cache. Okay, so better cache locality is one of the advantages, or you can say strength of your array. Now coming to your strength of your linked list. What is the strength of your linked list? Fast insertion and deletion. How? Just give the address of your node, okay, and using the free function, because we are going to use dynamic memory allocation in your linked list. So we are going to use your malloc and your free function. Okay, so how you can delete? Just give the command of free along with the memory address, and the nodes get deleted. If you want to do insertion, just give the command, just write the code line of malloc, give the position, and your node is linked at that position. You don't have to do any shiftings. You don't have to do any resizings. Anything resizing is again taken care by your OS. You don't have to handle that. Dynamic size, as I said, you can increase and decrease at your own pace. Okay, so that is dynamic sizing is one of the strengths of your linked list. Efficient memory allocation and utilization. This concept is same as what I explained you guys, that even if you have memory locations available at various locations of memory. You cannot allocate an array for those because array uses sequential memory form. But your linked list can efficiently allocate the memory which is at some another memory location, and it can use that location. So memory utilization and allocation is much easier in your linked list rather than your arrays. Okay. Now let's see the weaknesses. Weaknesses of array is what? Slow insertion and deletion time. Your insertion and deletion is going to take time. Why it is going to take time? For example, in your arrays, your array is full. Still you want to insert. So first you need to resize your array. Then you are going to insert. Okay. In opposite case, deletion. If you are deleting any element in between, then you have to shift and you have to again decrease the size of an array. Okay. Another thing, fixed size is one of the weaknesses of array. You need to keep one fixed size. Okay. Third, inefficient memory allocation and utilization. The same example. Even if you have memory chunks present inside your memory, you cannot allocate them to the array. Why? Because sequential memory allocation. And because the free memory is at somewhere else in your memory area, you cannot give that, you cannot use that, even though that memory is free. Okay, so inefficient memory allocation and utilization. Coming to linked list, it is slow in search. Why it is slow in search? Because in comparison to array, you cannot directly go to the index value. If you can have a look here, if I want to search 97 in my linked list, okay, then I have to traverse from head to node 1, node 2, and then node 3. Why? Because I don't know where this node 3 is located, at which memory allocation, okay, or say which memory address. But in case of array, directly give the index value and you get the item or get the element. But in case of linked list, you have to traverse, and that traversal time is time consuming. So that's why it is, in comparison to array, slow search time. Second weakness, or you can say drawback, a bit of drawback which you can say is memory needed per node is more. Why? Because we are to store the pointers also. Okay, so pointer is going to get pointer is going to occupy additional memory despite of the data. Why? Because the node is having two parts, data part and pointer part. Alright, so that's why it is going to get a bit heavy in terms of memory. More memory needed per node as additional storage is required for the pointers. Okay, so these were your strengths and weaknesses of arrays and linked list. Doubt? Anybody anywhere here? Yes or no, students? Any doubt here? Okay, so can we move forward now? Fine. So coming to this memory allocation and deallocation in your linked list. Now we are dealing with what? We are dealing with dynamic memory allocation. So when we are using your malloc, as good programmers, we also need to free your memory. for other processes to use. Otherwise, once we have used, we are, we are supposed to free up the allocated memory. So how this allocation and deallocation is happening? Okay. So let's take one example here. This is my linked list. Okay. Linked list having data of marks of biology subject. Okay. Just give me a moment. Okay, in your diagram, if you can see, biology is the subject, okay, for which there is some data about some students. Fine. So roll number and marks, and next is your pointer. Fine. Now from 1 to 11 students, 11 students, I have entered the data with their corresponding marks, and I want to add one more student and its marks. So if you can just observe the diagram first, last student which was added with marks 56 is holding next value as -1. Okay. So let's see how allocation is done. First of all, your OS is going to be responsible one to give the node the memory address. Okay, and you are not going to intervene in between as programmer. You are just going to write the malloc code and your work is over. Rest of the thing is handled by your OS. OS is the responsible one. Now how it is going to do? In OS there is a free pool called list of memory. Okay, what is this free pool? The computer is going to maintain all the free memory cells inside the free pool. Okay, so that available space inside your memory is called free pool. And this free pool is going to have one pointer called avail, also called as available. Okay. Wherever this pointer is pointing at in the list of free memory chunks, that memory is going to get assigned by your malloc. So if you can see logically, I mean in diagram way, so see these gray points, this is your memory space. Okay, this is whole of your memory space. Fine, these gray slots are your free memories. So what are your free memory? 4, 6, 9, 14. Okay, and the next available memory is 4. Okay, so avail is pointing there. Inside your memory, this is how it is stored. Okay, your linked list is stored. Gray are your available memories. Okay, gray part. Now this, if you can see, observe, avail is equivalent to your star. It is going to point to the first memory location which is free. Now that memory location, next part is holding the address of next free cell in your memory. So it is 6. So this, once this 4 is getting used, this avail is going to go here pointing to 6. If 6 gets used, this avail is going to go at 9. Why? Because 9 is free. Okay, and this list last available free memory is 14. So next pointer is at -1. Okay, so just like your list here which you are implementing, OS is going to have a list called free pool, and the pointer of that list is avail. Fine. So if you go and add now, because now avail is pointing at 4, you created one new node, okay, for 12th student, for data to enter for the 12th student. So the data about that student is going to get added at number 4. See here. Okay, so S12, 75 and -1. Previously S11 was -1. So we are going to update this -1 to 4. So see, S11 memory address got updated to 4. Fine. and at memory address 4, which was free given by the OS, we have created the node with marks 75, and the next part, as this is the last node, next part is having null value -1. Any doubt in this example? Any questions in this example? You are getting what I am trying to tell you here is, everybody? Okay. Now what about deallocation? Deallocation is again simply you have to just give the free, you have to call your free function, okay, and once you call that free function you have to give the pointer address, whichever memory you want to get, you want to free up, that you have to give, so that your OS is going to deallocate, okay, and that freed up memory will be stored again back to this free pool. Okay, so that is your memory allocation and deallocation. Fine. So far we have covered the theory of your linked list. Alright. Now when I say that it is linked list, now you have to keep in mind that we are talking about singly linked list. Okay, singly linked list. When I say that this is linked list, this is linked list, that means I am talking about singly linked list. Whatever you have seen so far, okay, it is your singly linked list. Fine. Singly linked list is nothing but the collection of your ordered set of elements, okay, and they are chaining because it is traversed in only one direction, so that's why it is singly linked list, and each node contains the next pointer, therefore reverse direction for traversing is not possible. So even if you see here, we have seen this as singly linked list. Okay, this is your singly linked list. Now in your program, how can you create a singly linked list? Okay, so that is what we are going to see, and we are going to keep it till there. Okay, singly linked list implementation, that is what we are going to see, and we are going to keep it till there. Traversing part we will see tomorrow. Okay, so this is my new project, console application C project. Okay, SLL. Okay, so I'm making a new folder here, TOTP underscore SLL. Right? Okay. Extra things getting removed. Fine. And what is it? My program to implement my singly linked list. Okay. Now see, in your singly linked list, you have to know your concept of DMA. Okay, and how you are going to use your malloc. Okay, and the concept of pointers, how you are going to access the pointer using your structure, data structure. What is your structure, data structure? Can anyone remember? There was a data structure in your C language called structure. Can anyone remember what is that?
Constructor.
Constructor, no, not constructor. Structure is a
Class,
data type.
maybe class.
What kind of class? Okay, what does structure holds? Tell me that.
Different
What
data
kind of,
type.
correct. So the information about that you need to have. Now as we are going to deal with dynamic memory allocation, so inclusion of standard library stdlib.h is necessary. Okay, why? Because we are going to use your dynamic memory allocation. So first of all, what we are going to do is we are going to create your node. Okay, so how we are going to create the node? With the help of your structure data type. Okay, so the keyword for that is struct. So Raj, you are right. Keyword for that data type is struct. Okay, so struct node. Fine. This is how you are going, you must recall. Now, according to this particular logical view, okay, what is my node have node is having one data and one pointer. Okay, so I am going to write one data type here, let's say integer data. Okay, and one pointer. Now what will be the type of my pointer? It will be same as my struct node. Why? Because it is part of struct node. Okay, so struct node pointer next. Okay, so data part and the pointer part. That is what you can say. This is your data part. Okay, and this is your pointer part of your node. Okay, now this doesn't mean that you have created a node. Okay, this is just your, you can say, skeleton for your node. You have not yet allocated the memory in your memory data. Okay, so you cannot say that you have created one node. You are going to create a node now. Okay, inside your main function. When you are allocating the memory, at that time you can say that you have created the node. Okay, now what is the next thing which you need in this linked list? This node structure got created. Now we need our head. Okay, so again, head is a pointer, and pointer type, data type of that will be same as your struct node. That is your node. So struct node pointer head. Okay, head stores the location of first node in your SLL. Okay, and data type of your pointer head is struct node, same as your node. Okay, fine. So what can you say about pointers here in your implementing the SSL? That we are always going to write the data type of that variable whose address the pointer is going to store. Okay, the data type of the pointer will be same as pointed by the memory it is going to get stored. Fine. So that is what that is why we are giving this struct node star head. Fine. And initially, as there is no singly linked list right now present, so the value of our head, okay, will be equal to 0. So you can write it here only. Struct node star head equal to null, that is 0. Okay. Now coming to your void main. Now we have to allocate the memory to your node. Now how we are going to do that? We are going to allocate or say create one new node. Okay. Again, this new node will have data type struct node new node. Okay. And this new node is going to store the memory address of the newly created node. So struct node star malloc size of struct node. Now let's understand this particular line of code part by part. When I say malloc, okay, this malloc function is going to assign one memory block, one full memory block. If you can remember our practical number 2, okay, this malloc is going to assign one full memory block. Okay, now how it is going to get the size? It is going to get the size from this struct node, okay, from this particular struct node. Now size of this integer will be either 2, okay, or 4, depending upon your compiler. If it is a modern compiler, it is going to take 4 bytes. If it is your old compiler, it is going to take 2 bytes. Okay, and this pointer part will take memory address as 4 or 8. 4, why 4? Because if it is a 32-bit compiler, it is going to take pointer part size as 4. If it is 32-bit compiler, okay, otherwise it is going to take 8 bytes, okay, if it is your 64-bit compiler. Okay, so let's assume that it is a modern compiler, modern 32-bit compiler. Okay, so total size of this, I am taking it as 4 plus 4. Okay, so 8 bytes. Okay, so here size of struct node, so 8 bytes, 8 byte block will be allocated by this malloc. Now this malloc, what this malloc is going to do, this malloc is going to return you 8 bytes of blocks, okay, with some memory address. Let's say 4501 is the memory address, okay, and this memory address 4501 will be pointed by one pointer, and this pointer is of type void. Okay, we are talking about just this one now. We talked about size of, okay, so we got 8 byte block. Now we are talking about malloc. Malloc responsible for allocating memory address, so that is 4501. Okay, and this 4501 is pointed by one void pointer. Okay, so we need to typecast this void. We have to typecast with what? With the data type of this node where we are storing this 4501. Okay, so we typecast it to struct node star. So that's why the struct node star is in front. The same thing was explained to you in your theory and your practical session also, but again I am explaining it to you. Struct node star malloc size of struct node. Now you can say that you have created a node. Okay, now you can say with the help of this Excel, yet you have not given this data part and this pointer part yet. You have just allocated this size, or you can say you have just acquired this memory location with the help of this particular one line of code. Fine. Now if you want to give the data part, then you can write printf enter the data. Okay, and how can you store this data? Can anybody tell me, using pointer, if I want to store the data, how can I access the data part? Does anybody remember? in your struct, if we have pointer for your struct node data structure, okay, the data type, not data structure, data type struct, okay, and pointer is pointing. So how can you access the member variables of your struct? Anybody remember? Take a hunch, no problem. Take a hunch. Do you remember using what you were using, like dot, arrow, star,
Dot.
equal to? Correct, your dot operator or your arrow operator. Okay, so if I want to access the member variable of this struct node, okay, so how am I going to access ampersand, okay, new node, and when you do this array, you will get in your IDE, in your Dev C, I'm using this Dev C++ IDE, you are going to get option to access the data member variables, either data or node pointer next. So I want to access, I want to store in the data part. So give one enter. So new node data. Okay, that is where your value is going to get stored in your node. Okay, and if you want to store the value in your next, that is your pointer, simply you can write new node arrow. Again, it is going to give you the option. So in that you can select your pointer. So next equal to 0. So what you did, you gave the data part and you gave the pointer part as 0. Okay, or you can say X. Fine. So this is what you are doing. Give the data part, and here you gave the pointer value. Okay, clear till here everybody, how we are going to code your node, how we are going to build your node, and how we are going to give the data and the pointer part to your node. Clear? Any doubt here in the coding part? Head pointer and node, we have discussed till here. Any doubt here? Rest of the students? See, why I am going slow with this now is that you are going to implement this again and again in all the variants of your linked list. Okay, so you need to understand the flow of this program, of how you are going to create a node, exactly how things are happening. Okay, we are going to keep it till here. Okay, I don't want you to, make your memory buffer overflow. Okay, so we are keeping it till here. Tomorrow we are going to continue from this program. Okay, and then tomorrow we are going to see how you can traverse, count, and search in your linked list. Okay, that is tomorrow, not today. We are going to keep it till here. Okay, so just you need to understand how you can create a node. Sorry, how you are going and creating a node, exactly how you are initializing and declaring your head. Okay, and inside your void main, how malloc is working. Okay, and after that, how you are giving data and the pointer value. Till here in the programming we have discussed. Fine. Josh, please be patient. I have not yet asked to write the numbers in the chat. You have to know exactly what we are going to do in your next session. Okay? Fine. No problem. No sorry is required, but just be patient. Okay, so we are going to keep it till here. See you tomorrow. We are going to continue with this program. So if you want to note down anything in this program, I am keeping the screen on for you. Fine? Alright. BD students 1 to 10. Numbers in the chat, serial order. After 3? After 7? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. AI 1 to 10. Seven, 8, 9, 10.
Ma'am, AI 7.
Okay. Fine. 11 to 20. Darshan, where were you?
Network, ma'am.
Okay. Finished 11 to 20, everybody, I hope. 21 to 30. Dhruvi, wait. 21 to 30. Okay. 31 to 40.
Ma'am, AI 37. I'm able to send
Bhavdeep,
my
Shivom, wait. AI 30,
7.
AI 37, 41 to 50.
Ma'am, 47.
47, okay. 51 to 60. 61 to 75. Thank you all for attending this session. See you tomorrow.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes, Tushar.